You're listening to From the Chair, and I'm your host, Mike Hamilton. Join us each episode as we talk to athletic directors from across America. We're going to talk about topics like leadership, career development, issues of the day, and I can promise you we're going to have some fun along the way too. So sit back, listen in, and let's dive in. Let's go. All right, welcome to today's episode. Really looking forward to our conversation. My guest today, longtime friend, Brian Mackin, who is the athletic director at UNCG, UNC Greensboro. And Brian, I really appreciate you spending some time with me here this afternoon.
Well, Mike, I'm honored to be on. You are a longtime friend, and really excited to be on your show. And I've seen a lot of them, and you do a fantastic job for the industry. And congratulations to you.
Well, I appreciate it. You know, I wanted to just start kind of on that front of when we met, because I think it's informative as to who you are as a leader and your interest in growing and getting better every day. And you know, you played baseball at UAB, and then you worked in the industry for quite some time. I think in Vulcan Materials and some other folks in the construction contracting type business, and then at a bank, if memory serves me correct. And then you moved on to campus, and we met very early in your tenure there in Birmingham. And why don't you just share kind of how that transpired?
Well, I did play baseball at UAB and graduated from UAB, got in the construction materials business. Vulcan Materials Company was a Fortune 500 company in Birmingham. Started with them, and then with them moved to Atlanta, Huntsville, and then got in the asphalt paving business with Dunn Construction Company, a locally owned, family-owned company. And then UAB came calling and asked if I was interested in, they created a job, Senior Associate AD, and wanted to know if I wanted to come over and join the athletic department. And I jumped a leap of faith. My dad thought I was crazy, but I did it anyway. And his great friend was Lee Mitchell, and Lee was a huge Tennessee supporter, Doug Dickey supporter, and he called Coach Dickey and said, you know, would you entertain Brian? He's a new AD for UAB. Would you be able to show him the ropes? And I was lucky enough to just drive up there. He spent about 4 or 5 hours with me, and luckily I met you. You were, I guess, the senior associate AD up there over
Right.
All external, his number 2. He really thought a lot of you, and really said, hey, Brian, once you leave here, you need to remember Mike Hamilton. And that's what I did. And actually, I came up to Tennessee at least a couple of times to talk to you about different things, whether it be coaches' contracts, culture change. And you were a tremendous help for me, and I'll never forget that. And then when you asked me to come on your show, and I met you earlier when you joined Learfield, I was just really excited for both of us to be able to get back on building our relationship again.
Well, we're gonna have a fun time today, and I'll tell you, you know, relationships matter and all this, right? And you mentioned one in Lee Mitchell and Coach Dickey, and they were dear friends, and so the willingness of Lee to lean in and say, hey, here are some places you can learn. I think we're always looking to learn. I'm curious, you know, you did have, by the way, it sounds like maybe you ought to be a construction facility consultant, maybe, right, from your previous career. I'm curious the pivot. Obviously, you're interested in being at your alma mater, and you know Birmingham's a great place. What did you early on? I don't know if you were in business development in those roles or whatever, but what did you take from your career outside college athletics and bring to campus that maybe served you very early on, and perhaps was even unique to how some things were being done at Birmingham prior to your arrival?
Well, UAB was really a young university when I got there. They started athletics in '78, so I got on campus actually in '79. So I was really going there to build something, to build a program, I was allowed to play early. So that was important to me. So I think you fast forward with my career in construction, and I really didn't have an engineering degree. I was a finance major, but I got in sales, and then eventually worked my way into the production part of it. So I really was eager to learn, eager to lead, and obtained a leadership position in the construction industry. And then when UAB, like I said, when they called for me to come in and really start that the external piece of the athletic department, I'd always followed it. I'd always loved athletics, and I loved my school. So that's why I really it was a great bridge for me to get into athletics because I respected Coach Bartow, what he did about building that program. And so that was just very important for me, is to get in, learn it, and to build something, Mike.
Yeah, for the younger folks who might be listening to this, Gene Bartow was, an absolute legend in college basketball circles and was so instrumental in the beginnings of the UAB athletic program and, the Bartow Arena on campus, obviously, and a lot of basketball success. And Andy Kennedy actually played for Coach Bartow. Isn't that right? Or did he?
He
Yeah,
did. And he
yeah.
played in the late 80s. He was a great player. And just for what he's done coming back to the university and putting us in a position to be an at-large potential NCAA participant, he's done a fantastic job.
Tell me, so you've got this iconic guy that's there, and his name's on the building, right? And I think it's always important to honor and respect iconic figures in your program, legends in your program, and I know you did that the right way. What were some sort of things that you said we've got to do to make sure that we honor this history and but yet at the same time continue moving the athletic program forward?
Well, I thought it was very important when I took over as AD, the culture that Coach Bartow had created with the Bobby Stobbs, the Roz Irwins, the Joe Davidsons. They built that program and they did it the right way. They were family. I thought that was very important to honor that when I got that job and to honor him. He was still living at the time. He had an office. He came in as many times as he wanted to. I took advice from him. We ate lunch together. I think respecting him and what he built post when he retired was so important to me. And I think it was so important to the athletic department culture is to have him around. And, we created the Hall of Fame, and I wanted to make sure that, he'd gotten sick. I wanted to make sure that we got him in. He was in the first class. And I thought that was tremendously important. And we did things the right way because it was our culture created by Coach Bartow. That was his legacy, and I thought that was very important for me to carry that torch forward and honor those that had really started that program from really scratch, and they were in a position to go to the NCAA Final Four by one game. They were in the Final Eight against Louisville in Birmingham. It was sold out after 3 years of having a program. That's to me, that's unheard of to do. So I really wanted to make sure that we honored him and his legacy.
Great, yeah, great testament of success, and what a story. So after you left your time as the athletic director at UAB, you moved to the conference office with Conference USA, and then now after a time with Conference USA, you've moved back to campus. One of the things as I talk to my friends who are in the conference office, and now that leagues are getting different sizes and all this kind of stuff is more difficult. But I remember the challenge was always, how do I make sure I wear a tie that doesn't offend somebody in the league, right? And so I am curious though, your different the things that you noticed, and some of us will be obvious, but I'm hoping we'll share some things that maybe aren't as obvious between being in a leadership role on campus in an athletic program, and then obviously in a very much a leadership role in Conference USA. Not only then how you could pour back into the athletic directors and the institutions from a different chair, but then what you could bring to the conference office from having been on campus.
Exactly. It's been a heck of a process, but I've learned all along, and really it's helped me become the AD that I am now. And it's almost like when you go from high school to college, and the speed is tremendously uh, different with that speed. And now that I've been an athletic director at UAB, been in the conference office, I've been in a banking world. It To get this job and to be in a position, what they needed is someone to come in, be out in the community, raise money, uh, and that's my strengths. That's what I think. I'm a people person, so I'm going into a position to my strengths instead of my weaknesses. So very important to me when I took the job. And the chancellor, that's what his uh, mark was for me, is that I had to get out in the community, raise money, and make our programs better. And I think that experience in the past has really helped me slow down the game. I can make decisions. I've been there. I've seen a lot of things, made a lot of difficult decisions, and I think all that experience has helped me. But what I equate, really, when you take the banking, it's almost like what I'm looking at is I'm a holding company at the conference office. The conference office sets the policy. They're the administrative body, negotiating the media, television packages, the officiating. They're really that holding company. They bring in the money, that they distribute the money to the institutions. So when you look at it from that standpoint holistically, um, it's a very important position to be in. Judy McLeod hired me at Conference USA, got me back in athletics when I had left UAB, and I was greatly appreciative to get back in athletics. You know how hard it is, Mike, to when you get out to get back in. So I was given that chance. I was very excited about that. But I equate the conference office to that administrative body for its members. And then when you start looking, I was the liaison between the athletic department, the conference office and their athletic directors. So it was very interesting to see the 14 members, the 14 ADs. They all had different issues and they all confronted issues differently. So for me, it was really kind of neat to be multitasked with all the athletic directors, and we built those relationships on trust because I'd been in that chair. So I think it was good to have the experience for the conference and now come back as an AD myself. I think all that has made me a better athletic director.
Yeah. So let me tag on to the conference conversation for just a couple minutes longer. How do you? I mean, obviously Jim Schaus is doing a great job as Southern Conference Commissioner, and has a history on campus as well from his times at Wichita State and Ohio. Um, how do you find yourself being an ally to him now that you share that common thread with him? I know you have a very different role now, but has it helped your communication with the conference office, or you probably would have had great communication regardless? But just curious how you're interfacing with the conference office now that you're back on campus.
It really has. In the meetings, I try to be vocal as far as the experience that I had, but not overdo it with my conference experience. I think Jim and I knew each other when he was the athletic director at Ohio. So it was a good match for us to be able to respect each other. I respect what he does. The environment for him taking over as a commissioner now is increasingly challenging. I think with my experience in Conference USA, having to gone through the realignment that we just went through, actually was boots on the ground with all those decisions and in meetings with the presidents. Uh, Being involved with that was, I think, is going to help my relationship even more with Jim. We had lunch in our breakfast about 2 weeks ago, and we talked about this. So anything that I can do to help in from a conference perspective, I think we have that relationship now, and it's only going to get better.
Yeah, it's great. So, a couple things relative to your time now in Greensboro, and I guess it's what you were named at the end of December last year. Am I remembering that correctly? So
Yes.
you've been there about 9 months. So you're
Hmm.
still still getting your sea legs in some ways, but having been a seasoned AD, I'm sure that's happened very quickly. You stated in your early conversations. I'm not sure if you said it in the press conference, but certainly some of the early press clippings that I read, and you alluded to it earlier in this conversation. Your desire to be an athletic director that really dives in on the fundraising side of things for your campus and the
Hmm.
Spartans and all that you need to be doing there to move the needle. What are your fundraising objectives now? And kind of tell me a little bit about the process you guys have been going through to make sure you get off the ground and get running in the right way there.
Two fronts. One was the annual giving fund. We've had to restaff. We had change over from the previous administration, so I've had to really go out and hire new staff, which is tremendously important. They did not have an annual giving person when I got here, and 2 other positions. So we've restaffed, which was very important. And I think starting on that front, annual giving, we don't have football, so it's basketball for us is really our sport from hospitality scholarship standpoint. We play at the Greensboro Coliseum, so it's off campus, but it's about 2 miles off campus. So I think it's very important for us. We set up busing for our students to come to the games. It's very important. They could walk, but I think it's a service for them to entice them to come to our games. But the annual giving piece, we have started Ignite the G, and we're going to hopefully get 1,000 new participants in our annual giving. I think COVID really hurt us from those number standpoint because we weren't allowed to have people in, and scholarship dollars really were reduced. So our annual giving, number one. Two, with our enrollment has gone down the last couple of years, Mike. And so our operating budgets and our scholarship budgets have been hit with cuts.
Yeah.
And what I've done is started an initiative for operating and our scholarship dollars. We're trying to raise $1 million a year for 5 years. That's our goal. We've gone out to the leaders of the Greensboro community. I've identified probably 28 to 30. Some of them didn't go to UNCG. A lot of them went to state schools around here, but they're Greensboro people. And that's getting out in the community, meeting them, letting them understand our message and our needs and our challenges right now has been a really good thing, because this is a very giving community, and getting out there and letting them know that we need their help. I've got a big fundraising event tonight, bringing those individuals together to show them exactly what our needs are. So I think those are the two big initiatives. It's really about people, and it's really about being transparent and letting them know that you really need their help. So we're excited about where we're going. We got a long way to go, but I think these two initiatives for us are going to help us from an annual basis, and then really to where we can budget those incoming operation and scholarship dollars down the road to help our program be better.
Yeah, look, I would validate your comments about giving community. The 4 years that I spent there in the Piedmont Triad with being at Wake Forest, but obviously having a lot of donors and friends in the Greensboro area, it's a very generous community, and a community that really cares about sports. The one of the reasons that the Coliseum has hosted the ACC tournament so many times, other than the fact the conference office has been there until this announcement this past week, it is because it's a great community of support that's there and present and willing to volunteer and do whatever is necessary to be around your program. From what I recall, a very active sports council as well. So you mentioned your fundraising objectives being a couple of things. Obviously, it's actually to set the tone for an annual operating fund and to grow that. And I think that's fundamental, right? So are you focused on anything right now or in the short-term future relative to major gift fundraising and some of the facilities needs that you've seen as you come on campus, or right now you're just trying to hone in on your annual giving and operating funds?
Yeah, I think with the environment that we're in, Mike, with our decreased enrollment and our student fees going down, there's the chicken or the egg, because I think that once you start going to the same donor base, and we've got to expand that donor base. That's part of this initiative, is going to people that have never given to UNCG before, and they have capacity, and you have to show them the value of investing in your program. Our facilities from a mid-major standpoint are incredible. I was unbelievably impressed with our facilities. There's things that we could do, but as far as building out a practice facility or a game facility, we have facilities that have been built and are in very good condition right now. So I think that really helps me, because I'm not coming into something that I have to go out and say, in order for us to really be successful, we've got to build this $20 million building and to be successful. That's not the case. So it's a good situation to be in. I think we do have a building that we could get on the books within the next year or two, but the immediate need is the annual cash flow in here to where we can manage our budgets. And you have to invest in your programs. And from an operating standpoint and from those scholarship standpoint, that's the nuts and bolts of it, is that we've got to do that, shore that up first. And then, of course, we would look in the future for other facility needs.
So you alluded to the Greensboro Coliseum a minute ago, and obviously that's again a historical facility that's been renovated and is a great home venue for your basketball program. You also live in an area where, though as I stated, it's very sports minded and sports centric in many ways. Candidly, there's a lot of competition, right? Within about a 2 hour radius. Gosh, I don't even know how many four-year institutions playing basketball there are, but I know it's fairly significant. So how do you go about finding your place? I always ask this question of folks who are kind of located in metro markets, and in your situation, while Greensboro is not a huge city, you do have this sort of this concentric circles around Greensboro where you've got a lot of institutions. So,
Mhm.
is it alumni first, I guess, and then the greater Greensboro community? What do you see? And I realize, Brian, by asking you this, with basketball being a primary focus, you only really got to see half of a basketball season so
Yeah.
far. So I'm a little bit, uh, you know, giving. I probably shouldn't ask this until you've been through a full season, but I'm curious your thoughts.
Well, obviously, there's a lot of pressure, basketball pressure. There's a lot of great teams around us within a mile, an hour, hour and a half, that have been tremendously successful. So I think the bar in this state, especially with where we are, with the ACC being headquartered here until recently, is that they expect winners. And I think Wes Miller had really gotten the program to the point where we were right on the cusp of an at-large bid. The community was rallying around him. Uh, Mike Jones, our new coach, is going to do the same thing. He's put together a great team for this year, and I think that people want us to be successful. I think alums are used to success here. Our whole athletic department has been successful in a lot of areas: our soccer, our softball, our baseball. So people know that we have a successful program, but at the same time, basketball in this community is really the key. And I think we've got to get our student body base uh, together to go to games. It's tremendously important. It's only 2 miles away. Alumni, but the greater Greensboro community is where we've really got to focus our efforts. And you've got to show them that you've got a product that they want to come see. But you also have to tell them that if we are successful, it helps Greensboro. So it's a win-win situation for us. But we have to invest, and I think we have the right coach, and I think we can be successful in the future.
Yeah. So let's shift a couple of national issues here real quickly as we head down the backstretch. I would say to you, um, probably the most common talked about subject among the conversations I have with athletic directors. At some point in the conversation, there's going to be a talk about name, image, and likeness and how it's affecting their particular campus. They're concerned about where it's all going, the fact that there aren't significant guardrails around the process right now. And certainly that plays out different in different communities. It plays out different in different conferences. It plays out different in different segments of the Division One experience. I'm just curious. I mean, you play in a hotly competitive conference. There's really historically really good basketball in the Southern Conference. All right, as you are working your way through how you guys can continue to make sure you're on the forefront of your competitiveness. And I know there are a lot of things that go into that. What does NIL play a role for you, or is it playing a role for you? Do you want it to play a role for you? Kind of what are you seeing there in your shop?
Well, obviously, the student athletes, you want to make sure that their experience is the best. And for us, NIL in our space, from a mid-major standpoint, we don't have football. Um, we have felt the effects of NIL. Obviously, the transfer portal and name and image and likeness, they're together. So the collectives that are being created out there, they definitely have affected us from a recruiting standpoint, because it's helped us from a portal standpoint because we've gotten some student athletes that can help us. But I think the pressure on everyone, Mike, in this, I guess, the state of the business that we're in right now, we do have someone out there that is interested in potentially creating a collective that could possibly help our program, and we would want to do that. We want to do it the right way because we want our student athletes in the community. We want them out there in businesses, interning, and doing everything they could possibly do to help them in their career. But I think that NIL is here. I think it's got to be managed. I think it's very difficult right now. Uh, we don't know what the NCAA is expecting from. Is it pay for play? It's the wild wild west. But we want to do it the right way. We want to give our student athletes a chance to earn some money, and at the same time help them from a business standpoint in their career. So it's all around the student athlete, and I wish it was just a little bit more pure, but it's not right now. And but the mid majors are struggling with it, and of course the Power Fives are off the charts. So that's a whole nother ball game up there with what they're dealing with right now.
Yeah, and I would imagine you alluded to this a minute ago, but the transfer portal becomes really critical in that because of the ability for freedom of movement. Now, if you've got really good players, there becomes a pinch point of them having opportunities to go somewhere else for, let's call it what it is, higher NIL dollars, right? And then
Right.
you've got to, at the same time, capture perhaps those who maybe weren't as satisfied with how it played out at their different places. And you can do that in a way that you weren't able to do before, but sometimes you're inheriting a disgruntled player and finding out how you manage that in the chemistry of your system. It's challenging for coaches. I really feel for them in that regard, and certainly that then means it's challenging for athletic directors. Would you so? This is an unfair question, and I don't like to ask unfair questions, but is that the biggest thing that keeps you up at night, worrying about how this affects how NIL and the portal affect your business, or is it your fundraising initiatives, or are there other things that really weigh on your mind now as you're 3/4 of the way into your first year there?
Well, I think one of the things that you had not mentioned, but it's very important for me, is building a culture within the athletic department. As you know, when you get to be your new AD, you come in, I had my 100-day plan that I went out and saw, the university leadership, our coaches, met with them individually, deans, chancellor's council, met with a ton of people, and I listened, and I'm trying to learn the culture, not only of the athletic department, but of the university. And then to put my vision and my culture into play, it's very important to me that you can say, we're going to change the culture, but you have to be transparent. They've got to trust you. And then you got to do the little things every single day to prove that if you say something, you're going to do it. So the culture part for me has been one of the things that is the hardest because it's kind of an unseen. It's a day-to-day activity, how you act, how you treat people. The culture part for me has been something that I've really tried to uh, instill upon our staff and our coaches, but at the same time I'm trying to build their trust. But obviously, with our decrease in enrollment, Mike, what does that look like for the next 2 to 3 years? Is it going to continue to be reduced? Am I going to have to continue to find ways to fundraise to offset those deficits? Um, that's probably the leading uh, cause of the lack of sleep. I sleep pretty good. I work really hard. We try to have good people. It is what it is. In this industry, we're all faced with challenges. It's how you face those challenges and go forward with a good attitude. Come into the office every day ready to work. That's how I kind of approach it. It's not gloom and doom. We're in tough times, but at the same time, go make a difference. Go
Yeah,
make a difference
yeah.
and be something that has not been done here before. And that's what I'm trying to challenge my staff and coaches, that we're in a tough environment, but let's make it better. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's important.
Okay. So, final question, playing off that for just a second. Some of my conversations with athletic directors and presidents who are in the northern Ohio area, and they talk about retraction of enrollment. They see that as a trend line. Not a dip, not a response to a pandemic, but they truly are seeing a trend line downward that may not come back in terms of enrollment. And some of this conversation that candidly happened before the pandemic. So I'm extrapolating a little bit. In your situation, the state of North Carolina, a state that continues to grow, a state where there are so many great institutions. Um, do you think that what you're seeing right now at UNCG, and I don't know what I don't know what other universities are seeing in your state, is it a decline relative to the pandemic and the fact that more students realize that they could take courses online, or is it a general decline in the student college going population in the state of North Carolina more broadly? Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, the sense is the public regional institutions, especially in our system as a whole, have really seen declines. And we are a university that has a mission. We are 50% of our students that come in here are first generation students. Uh, they're 47% on Pell Grants, and 75% on work. So it is an environment for us that if you're looking at students that would normally be looking at UNCG, they might be going and waiting a year and going to work somewhere instead of going to school. I think they have different options. They could go online. But I think our system has seen those decreases, especially those public regional uh, universities. So I think it's definitely a trend. I think COVID really accelerated what was going to happen in 25. That was the benchmark that they felt like that was going to be a reduction in the students' population. But I think COVID really just accelerated that. So that's what we're kind of faced with right now, and it's reality. I don't think we're going to come out of this. We're not going to grow out of this. I think our chancellor's great about saying that. We're not growing out of this one. It's going to be here with us, and we're going to have to deal with our student body base being smaller. And so that challenge for me is I take it in the athletic department. What are we going to do to innovate ourselves and reinvent ourselves in a way that we can face this challenge and be successful?
Well, look, I know you'll do it well from your perspective. I will tell you, when we had lunch a few months ago, and even today, it's been great to see what I would call a new kick in your step. I can sense your energy, and that, not that you haven't always had energy, but I sense a new sense of energy from you, and I know that you're excited about the role there, and you're living in a really good community, and you're a very good school. I mean, being a native of North Carolina, I've got a number of family members who have actually gone to school at UNCG, and to a person, it was a positive and great experience. And one of them was a student athlete there, and so and in your successful men's soccer program. So anyway, yeah, it's been a real pleasure to have you on, man, and I just, you got a lot going on, as do all athletic directors. I recognize that, and so thanks for taking the time out today to join me.
Mike, thank you, and it's you're a friend, and I appreciate that, and you're doing a great job, and thank you for doing this, giving athletic directors a platform to speak, and you've been one, and it's been a great series. Thank you.
All right. So you've been listening From the Chair. I'm your host, Mike Hamilton. Today's guest has been Brian Mackin, who is the recently appointed, I'll say that, even though it was December of 21, new athletic director at UNCG. I hope you'll listen to us each and every week on Wednesdays on whatever audio platforms you choose, or watch it right here on your YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us today. Tell a friend about it, and we'll see you next time.